Hello everybody, DM Gashbad here. We are back with Game 3 of Round 4 of our Warhammer Fantasy Battles 8th Edition Path to Glory campaign. As always, we are following the exploits of the Louts of Chaos, Khorne worshippers who don't mind if you spill their blood, just don't spill their beer. They are led by Sir Osis of the Liver. He is up to Weapon Skill 8, Strength and Toughness 5 with 2 wounds, Initiative 7, 4 attacks. He has the Blessing, Axe, and Mark of Khorne, giving him Frenzy, Killing Blow, and a Dispel. He has a Deafening Bellow for -1 to be hit on the round that he charges, Horrible Scars, which cause fear. He's got Chaos Armor, a Shield, a Barded Chaos Steed named Horsey, and a Throwing Axe. Also, importantly in this game, he hates Kaeroph, the leader of the opposing warband we're about to face. His warband is somewhat depleted after the last game, but it still consists of the Booze Hound, a Chaos Hound, Scalding Blood Porridge, an Ogre with an extra hand weapon, Herald Drownsodden, a Chosen, also with an additional hand weapon, Dr. Heineken's Monster, a Chaos Spawn with the Mark of Khorne, Dunschlitz the Minotaur with his Great Axe, the Pitmen, 2 Chaos Warriors with shields, and 2 groups of Marauders. The Meat Shields, which are 2 Marauders with shields, and the Leg Biters, 4 Marauders with additional hand weapon. For this game, they will all be in 1 unit. The Louts of Chaos have not been doing terribly well in this round of the campaign. This is the last round of the campaign, and with it my last chance to reclaim some of my honor and gather a couple of precious favor points before the next round. Facing off against us is the Hagsbrood, an undivided war band led by Kaeroph First-Born. Kaeroph is the only Chaos champion on foot. He is armed with a demon weapon. He has a Frenzy and a shield. He's got Toughness 5, 4 wounds, 4 or so attacks, and Leadership 9. As always, I'm probably forgetting some advancements in there. He travels with a bodyguard of 2 Chaos Ogres with great weapons. The warband also consists of a single Marauder Horseman with a flail, 3 Chaos Warriors, I believe with no additional equipment, a Chaos Knight, which is cool, a Chaos Troll, 4 Marauders with flails, and 3 Chaos Hounds. It looks like he has taken some casualties since the last time our warbands have faced each other. I believe I've been facing off against a unit of 5 Chaos Marauders with flails since the very beginning of the campaign. It's kind of sad to see them down to 4 now. Here's the table all set up and ready to play. As before, the scenario this round is take and hold. If there's no victor by the end of round 10, then the winner is the person with the most models on the top 2 layers of that central hill. Like most of my opponents, he has set up his strongest elements closest to the hill in the center. The Knight, the Troll, the 2 Chaos Ogres with Kaeroph, and the 3 Chaos Warriors are in the woods to the left. That wood is an abyssal wood, if you're curious. The Marauder Horseman with the flail is all the way off on the left. The Marauders have taken that hill on the right, and the Chaos Hounds are protecting his flank on the right. For my part, I've gone with my usual strategy of having a fairly thin center and stronger flanks. It hasn't worked for me throughout this campaign, but it's sure to work for me this game, right? The spawn is dead center, ready to amble forward, and it is joined by Sir Osis. Herald and Scalding are off to the right, the Hound is to the left in the middle. Dunschlitz the Minotaur is all the way on the right, looking for a long outflanking move, and the Pitmen and the Marauders are doing the same on the left. As always, the idea is to avoid contact in the middle, let my stronger flanking forces come around the sides, and hopefully gang up on his stronger elements in the late game. The right is looking pretty good. I'm not worried about the Chaos Hounds at all. My biggest issue is that Chaos Knight in the center. I think a charge from that Chaos Knight could finish off any of my small units he manages to make contact with. So game start and we roll off to see who decides who goes first. I win the die roll, and again I choose to let my opponent go first. He goes for what I would consider a relatively cautious advance up the board. 10 rounds is a long time. We're in no rush. Over to the Lout's turn. Dunschlitz the Minotaur advances aggressively on the right. The spawn blunders forward as fast as it can. I don't really expect this guy to survive long. I think the way the spawn is being used, I'm going to lose him in every game that I play. Not great for such an expensive model, but it seems to be what he's good at. Hopefully he can disrupt my opponent's center on his way out the door. My Marauders move as far left as they can. The rest of the center just kind of spreads out and tries to look unappetizing to that Chaos Knight. Hagsbrood turn, and he makes a formidable battle line in the center on that hill. Looks like the Marauder Horseman is looking to intercept my forces on the left, and I think my opponent has set a trap for me on the right. The Chaos Hounds are in a nice easy charge range of my Minotaur, and the Marauders with flails are right there to the left. I think what he wants is for Dunschlitz to charge the Chaos Hounds, and they either flee or I kill them and pursue or overrun a very small amount, and then he countercharges with the Marauders with the flails. It's a decent enough idea, but I think the Marauders may be a touch too far forward. Back to my turn, and unfortunately Sir Ossus can see the Chaos Knight, and he is just barely within charge range, so he has to make a frenzy check, which he fails. So he has to make a charge, which could be a big mess. Fortunately, Horsey is his usual slow self, and I roll a really small amount for my charge range, and I only wander forward just a little bit. Over on the right, Dunschlitz the Minotaur ignores the baiting hounds and charges past them into the Marauders, completing the charge. Not only that, but Scalding Blood Porridge the Ogre can also draw a charge onto them. He needs an 8 or above, and he gets that too. Those Marauders are in a lot of trouble. For the rest of the movement phase, I don't like my spawn's odds against any of the forces in the middle of the table. Maybe the best shot he's got is against those Chaos Warriors, so I point him in that direction, but he doesn't roll far enough to get into contact with him. The Marauders continue their flanking maneuver off on the left, and the rest of my forces just kind of spread out and creep around. In the combat on the right, the Marauders get to strike first and put a wound onto Dunschlitz, and then my two big guys go nuts and stomp all of the Marauders into the mud. The hounds are within 6 inches and over 12 inches away from the Hagsbrood's general, so they fail their panic test and run off the table. Dunschlitz is now frenzied since he won a round of combat, and so he has to overrun his 1d6 inches forward. Scalding is a bit more level-headed and reforms to face the center. Back to my opponent's turn, and he has decided that he's going to do something about this spawn wandering around right in front of his lines. Kaeroph and his Ogre bodyguard, the Troll, and the Chaos Knight all charge into him. Kaeroph and the Ogres go into the flank. The Chaos Warriors bank right to protect against the Ogre, and the Marauder Horseman moves into the woods in the center. The combat on the hill was every bit as one-sided as it appeared, and the spawn is chopped to pieces before it can even strike. The downside of this for my opponent is that Kaeroph and the Ogres have to overrun because of Kaeroph's frenzy. He chooses to have them go first, which means they just bump into the side of the Troll. The Troll also overruns towards my lines, and the Knight chooses to stay where he is. I think this was a good choice because if the Troll had moved far enough forward, it would have blocked the charge that I'm about to make right now. We're back to my turn, and Sir Ossus isn't going to get a better opportunity than this. He's going to charge the flank of Kaeroph and the Ogres. The Troll didn't go far enough to get in my way, so this is a pretty easy charge for me to make. Kaeroph is still a tough customer, but with me striking first with 5 attacks, with Hatred and Killing Blow, I've got a better shot of killing him than I do most of the other Warband leaders. My Marauders on the left also attempted a charge on the flank of the Marauder Horsemen. It was a long charge, but I think the odds were in my favor if I'd managed to make it. I don't and only stumble forwards. Harold continues to creep around the skull cliff face on the right. The Pitman and the Chaos Hound try to avoid the line of sight of the Chaos Knight. Scalding Blood Porridge knows better than to charge into a unit of Chaos Warriors on his own, so he and Dunschlitz move around to their flank. It's looking pretty good. My forces are enveloping his, but I think it's all going to come down to this combat in the center with the challenge between our two champions. So Sir Ossus gets to strike first with his 5 attacks, hitting on 3s with rerolls. He hits with all 5 attacks, not even needing his Hatred rerolls. This is fantastic. If there's ever an opportunity for me to get Killing Blow, this is it. I roll my 2 wound dice and no 6s come up. No Killing Blow this time. I do, however, get 3 wounds through. He manages to save 1, so that's 2 wounds onto Kaeroph. Half of his wounds gone. In return, he's striking me. Needs 5s to hit because of Deafening Bellow. But when all is said and done, he again managed to plant 2 wounds on Sir Ossus, and again I'm looking at 2 4-up armor saves. This time I managed to do it, in that I managed to pass 1 of them. I still take 1 wound, down to half health for me as well, but I charged, I'm in the flank, I caused 1 extra wound. That's a -3 break test to Kaeroph. We're not counting me charging down the hill because really I'm still up on top of it. Kaeroph does have a leadership of 9 though, so it's a 6 or less, which is very doable, but he fails! Kaeroph and the Ogres take off. Oh, it's all going my way this game. Sadly, speed is not Horsey's thing this game. Fails to run them down. They do escape. They're 1 inch in front of me. Still, it's a great result. Can't complain. And the hits keep on coming. We're back to the Hagsbrood's turn, and the first thing that happens is Kaeroph and the Ogres fail to rally. They only flee a small distance, but there is a series of opportunities for me here. The troll fails its stupidity test, the Marauder Horseman moves behind Sir Osis, and the Chaos Warriors reform to face Scalding and Dunchlitz. Back to the Louts of Chaos, it's all looking pretty good, but there's a problem. Kaeroph and the ogres have fled into the forest. It would be really easy for Sir Osis to charge into them and run them off the table or run them down. However, he's a cavalry model and he only has 1 wound remaining. If he charges into that forest, he has to make a dangerous terrain test, and so there's a 1 in 6 chance of him just dying because he bonks his head into a tree branch. If you remember, it's happened before. 1 in 6 is too chancy for my blood, so I go and make my frenzy test, and I pass, which is good. So I'm a little disappointed about not being able to run off his main unit from the table, but then I have an idea. I've got those marauders way off on the left, and they're pretty far away, but they can declare a charge against the ogres, which would force them to flee off to the right. So I go and do that. I don't catch them, obviously, but it does push them just far enough out of the forest that now I can declare a charge with Sir Osis. The ogres and Kaeroph run off the table, and I am not required to go into the woods. I have to admit, I'm pretty pleased with that scenario. My opponent's most powerful unit is gone, Sir Osis didn't have to make a dangerous terrain test, and the Marauders can claim they actually did something this game. Hoping to keep the good times rolling, Dunchlitz and Scalding charge into the Chaos Warriors. The Pitmen move in towards the Marauder Horsemen. The Boozehound hangs around in the flank of the Chaos Knight to harass him. Harold Drownsodden moves to the flank of the Chaos Warriors to help out in later turns if he needs to, and everyone ignores the troll. Close combat phase, and my opponent continues to not catch a break. The Chaos Warriors cause no damage to the Ogre and the Minotaur, and are absolutely flattened in return. Dunchlitz is now double frenzied and has to overrun again. Scalding is happy where he is. Back to the Hagsbrood, and he's decided that that's enough. He voluntarily routs. And hey, there was a great result for the Louts of Chaos. Yeah, true, it kinda hinged on a somewhat iffy charge there in the center, but I think I gave myself about as good a chance as I possibly could have, and the luck just went all my way from there. So a good way to end round 4. I pick up 6 favor points to my opponent's 2. Dr. Heineken's monster passes its casualty roll and rejoins the Warband. Sir Osis gets an advancement. He rolls a Khorne advancement. Everything left on that chart is bad. I don't want anything there, so I use a favor point to modify it up, and I end up with an extra attack. That's 5 attacks on Sir Osis plus 1 for the frenzy. Not bad. So with that being it for this round of campaign games, it's time to spend some of my favorite points on the followers table to replace some of my losses for the next round. I think I'm tired of table 2. I'm tired of hiring the big monsters. I really want to fill out some of my scrubs. I especially want a unit that Sir Osis can join and kind of hide from some of these spells in. It gets off to a good start. My first roll is a Marauder Horseman. No additional equipment, and I only managed to get 1 of them, but I buy them. Maybe I can add to the unit in later rolls. My next roll I get a double 6, which means that I actually go and roll on table 2. That's great in theory, but I roll up a Chaos Troll, which would be awesome, but I don't have enough favor points to buy him. Even if I modify the score down to a Chaos Ogre, which would also be nice, I can't afford him either, so I kind of just have to take a loss on that roll and not pick up anything. For my final roll on table 1, I get Chaos Hounds. The single Chaos Hound has been doing fairly well for me, but they are a unit that Sir Osis can join and get protection from those spells, so I'm going to pick up some of those. I actually roll the maximum, I believe. I believe I get 6, but I can only afford 4. That's still pretty good. That's a unit of 5 Chaos Hounds. That means that I don't have to distribute any hits onto Sir Osis if he's in that unit and targeted by a spell. It also means that if I paint those guys up, I will have a fully painted core unit for my army, the first one for Warriors of Chaos. So for next round, I've got to paint up 4 Chaos Hounds and 1 Marauder Horseman. Again, it seems weird that with all the models that I've painted over the years, I still have to paint up new stuff for this round. I can't reuse a single old model, but that's okay. I want my collection to get larger. And so that's it. The next campaign day will probably be in a couple of months. That will be the last normal round of games, and then we'll have the big multiplayer game the next session. As always, thanks for watching, and leave a comment below if you have any questions, observations, or concerns. I'll see you on the next one.